Good morning, church.
Good morning, church.
Welcome to the miscombobulated service we're having today. Things have not been going well here, so let's open with prayer. Thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for providing a day that we can worship you and a day to remember Dennis. We just ask you to be with us through this service. Please send your Holy Spirit and please put a hold on Satan. Amen. All right, announcements. Lemonade stand coming up August 14th. Sorry. Yeah, bite the mic, he says. That will be August 14th. We have enough supplies left from, we didn't do it last year, the year before, 2019. The only thing we will need is fresh fruit, and I will get a list out there next week. It says here we'll start in the morning. Actually, we'll probably just start about 11 o'clock and just have to cut up the fruit and things like that. If you have a 5-gallon cooler, would you please, if you're willing to let us use it, please bring it to the church and put it in the kitchen, please. Hog roast is coming up into September, so keep that in mind. The Rite of Versa Day is out there, so if you're following that, that's out there for you. Tithes and offerings back there. Chuck has a plate out there, I think. So. Oh yes, potluck today. If you didn't bring a dish to pass, please plan on staying. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of food out there. Is that it? Are we ready? Okay.
Other than if you can't pay here in person, you can also do your tithes online.
You guys get that? Tithes can be paid online. So if you need help with that, ask somebody besides me.
Good morning, church. Good morning. Go ahead and stand if you want to.
tiny bubbles and wine make me happy, make me feel fine. Tiny bubbles make me warm all over, with a feeling that I'm gonna love you till the end of time. So here's to the golden moon,
Everybody snap your
and
fingers.
here's to the silver sea, and mostly here's a toast to you and me. Tiny bubbles in the wine, make me happy, make me feel fine, tiny bubbles, make me warm all over, with a feeling that I'm gonna love you till the end of time. Ooh, Ali, Ikabaina, oh, holy, Ikaba out in no tiny bubbles, make me warm all over, with a feeling that I'm gonna love you till the end of time, with a feeling that I'm gonna love you till the end of time. Tiny bubbles and wine make me happy, make me feel fine. Tiny bubbles make me warm all over, with a feeling that I'm gonna love you till the end of time. So here's to the golden moon, and here's to the silver sea, and mostly here's a toast to you and me. Tiny bubbles.
Barry's supposed to be emceeing this, but he forgot something at home and he had to go back and get it. So he thought he'd be back by now, so I guess you're putting up with me till he gets here. I'm going to go first with my testimony about Dennis. I've known Dennis for a very long time. We met at the Mount Carroll Church of God, and then we took a class together called AIM. It was Associates in Ministry, and it lasted probably about 6 months with holidays and not able to meet or whatever. There were 6 of us in that class. There was 3 women and 3 men, and Dennis was one of the men, of course. And we became very close. In this class, Dennis received the call to ministry that led Dennis and Don to accept the call to the missionaries, to be missionaries in New Mexico. And while they were there, I was able to visit them probably 4 or 5 times. Barry and I went then another time, and then we took our whole family down one year. At that time, Dennis and Donna had very few white people around them, and they kind of longed for that companionship. So we felt privileged to be able to go and visit. When they moved back to Illinois, our son John and I took a pickup truck and a big trailer down. And that's an experience that the Jarrards and John and I experienced. And John Naylor also was along. That is the trip that at the time was not funny. If it could happen, it happened. Even leaving the yard was an ordeal. And we left the mission church, pulled out on the highway, and when you pull out on that highway there, it's a very steep, long hill down. And John and I discovered rather rapidly our trailer was overloaded. And Donna and Dennis were right behind us, and they thought we were going in the ditch. And when I mean ditch, it's not like an Illinois ditch. It's deep, steep. But we made it to Gallup, where we reshifted the load, and were able to make our journey on home. Dennis was like a brother to me. He was a brother from a different mother. He was the same age as my brother that had been killed years before, so he kind of took his place. And like all little brothers, he could be extremely annoying, as many of you know. If he wanted to really be annoying, he'd call me Barbie. If he was a little more annoying, he'd call me Barbie doll. And if he was very annoying, he would sing Barbara Ann to me. I do not like that song. I never have. But I called him Dennis the Menace then, but I didn't have any more words to call him after that. But seriously, and many of you know this, how much, if you were in need, Dennis was there for you. He was there for both my parents' funeral. He was there to marry 2 of our kids. Funny thing about John's wedding is Dennis had just come back from the mission field, and the first thing he said was, "Who gives this man away in marriage?" And of course, Barry and I are sitting there going, is it a new part or what? He claimed he never did that, but I have proof. When Barry and I sold our dairy herd, it was a really hard day for us. When you see your life work out on the auction block, it's heart-rending. And Dennis came down and spent the whole day with us, even helping me load cattle in trailers. Dennis did not know cows, but he wanted to help and he wanted to be there for us. He also did the funeral for both my mom and my dad, and he just was a very compassionate person. We've all read on Facebook and heard of Dennis's accomplishments since he passed. He truly was bigger than life, and he cared so much for family and friends. He particularly loved his family, and he loved this church. But I think I can say with confidence that Dennis would like to be remembered for being a man of God, a family man, and a good friend, and a shepherd to our church. He truly loved the Lord with all his heart, and I will miss him so very much. And look forward to hearing him say, "Hello, sunshine," someday in heaven. Barry was going to come up next, but he's not here yet. So Jean, would you come and share, please?
Barb pretty much covered the whole thing. But when Dennis and Donna first got here, and I met Dennis for the first time actually being here as our pastor, he is the most compassionate pastor I've ever met. So many pastors are bigger than they think they are. And Dennis was just a common guy. He loved people. He fished, he hunted, he did all the stuff that normal people would actually do. And he really felt compelled to this church and everybody who attended this church. He had a heart bigger than he was. Anytime my family needed something, he was always there. When my oldest daughter had surgery up in Rochester, Minnesota, he was there the next morning. He called me. He goes, "We'll be there in a few, in a few minutes." I'm thinking, "We'll? How many's coming?" Well, he brought 3 other people with him from the church, and I'm thinking, okay, it's not like it was in Freeport or Rockford. It was quite a ways away. But he's always there for you. The day I got called, I couldn't believe it because we did so much stuff together. We camped, we rode Harleys together, and since that time I have not touched. My bike is still sitting there, hasn't even been started. I can't bring myself to even ride right now. But Dennis has a heart bigger than, like I said, bigger than he is. He cares for everybody. He was always there. Anybody needed anything, he was the first one there. April 9th of this year, I was involved in my first ever officer-involved shooting. Very short time after that, I got a phone call from Dennis. "Hey, how you doing? What do you need? Do you need to talk?" So we talked, a few minutes. He says, "Okay, sounds like you're already starting through the whole process." But he's always there and worried for his people. And I just can't say enough about Dennis and the entire family. Everybody just loves him, so much. I don't know what else to say. Before I start crying, I'm gonna have to get down.
Anyone else that would like to share this time? If so, there's a mic up here that you could use, this red one right down here. So, anyone? One.
I just do here.
If you could yell loud enough. Sorry, Eric, did I goof you up?
Hi, I just want everybody to know how special Dennis was to our family. We got a lot of death, a lot of tragedy in our family. And I don't care what time at night we called him, he was there. And if he couldn't be there, he would send somebody else from the church, or like Jean said, several people. He helped with all my aunts and uncles and my dad and my 3 sisters when they all passed away. I've never felt so welcomed by a church and a church family like I have by this church family. Thank you.
Anyone else? Give up the mic back there.
One time comes to mind when Dave was in Corvina, after being in the hospital. I was with him and he all of a sudden, I was talking to him and all of a sudden he just turned white and was clammy and he wouldn't respond to me and he coded blue and we went to FHN emergency room, and I can remember there was a group of the church family that came, and Dennis came, and he stayed with us for hours. And I'll never forget that, because I don't think I could have made it through without them being there. And I can remember that very vividly. And the other thing I remember is that we were going through, after Dave passed away suddenly in November. It's been a long haul, very emotional. And we couldn't get any auctioneers to auction off our things. And then with the move away from where we had been living for 16 years, it was a very emotional time. And we had to go to yard sales, trying to get rid of everything. And we tried to get help, no one would help us. I have 3 girls that broke their backs working 24 hours a day for months, trying to get everything set up and selling things. No one would help us, come and help us. And Dennis one day said that he would be there to help us. He couldn't do much, but he would be there to support us. But the Lord took him home the day before. He was going to be there. And it meant so much to me that he would take his time off, as busy as he was, that would he give up his time just to be there, to support us when no one else would. And I thank God for Dennis, that he was that type of a person.
Yeah, it's bad luck to walk under a ladder.
Thank you, Dana.
So I wasn't sure if I was going to share today or not. Partially because I don't like crying in front of people. And when I do cry in front of people, I think of Dad, because he always made fun of me for crying because I do this. And so he would always say, oh, yes, it's just so sad. Okay, so my dad gave so much of himself. The other reason I wasn't sure if I would share is my dad gave so much of himself to everybody, and I kind of want to keep memories to myself. It's hard to share him with everyone, and that's something that's been my whole life. It's really hard to share him with everyone. We've left her, and it's not a regret at all, but just some of the ways that he shared himself. We would leave early from family vacations because someone in the church needed us. We would cut things short, or we would cancel plans. And that can be tough sometimes, but I don't regret it, and I know my dad didn't regret it at all, and it taught myself and my brother and my mom to be giving people. Some of the memories that I do want to share with my dad, though, some of them are kind of funny, but when I was little, Mom was working, and since Dad was a pastor, he was the one who stayed home with me because he had the free time, because he only worked on Sundays. That was a joke. So Dad would stay home with me, and some of the memories I have out in New Mexico, I don't remember what type of vehicle he drove. It was not nice, but driving around with him on the reservation, and he would sing to me constantly, and his favorite thing to sing is he would sing My Girl, and he would replace the word My Girl with Dana, and I loved it and thought it was the greatest thing ever, until I got to high school and he kept doing it in front of my friends. Also, just all of the time that I spent with him. When we moved to Illinois, I think I had kindergarten in the afternoon, and my brother had to be at school in the morning. And Dad would take me out to breakfast almost every day after we dropped my brother off at school. And then usually we had to go visit people. And he would bring me along and go visit people in the hospital. If any of you had counseling from him and I was sitting in the floor of his office playing, I apologize. But he would have me in his office while people were in there talking to him. I was with him constantly. And I miss that. And there's certainly some things that, again, I'm going to keep to myself because I think that they're memories that are special just to me. But I wanted to say that he was just an amazing father. And as much as I miss him, and I do miss him a lot, I am so glad that I had the dad that I did. And you know, I'm going to be a parent here soon-ish, in 3.5 months. I really hope that I am half as good a parent as he was. And for those of you that have kids, I hope that you remember with your own children, Dad and the lessons that he taught, and lessons about patience and being giving. So many times I remember my dad apologizing to me because he would get mad about something or he didn't explain something well, and he would apologize. And that's a big deal for a parent to apologize to their kid. So I guess that's just kind of what I've been thinking about is parenthood, and remember those lessons with your own children and with the people in your life about being patient and having fun and laughing and living your life big the way that Dad did.
David, thank you so much for sharing. I know that was not easy for you. At this time, does anyone else want to share? We're going to have another time of sharing too, so. Oh.
I just wanted to share some kind of funny stories too. A couple years ago, we came for the nativity because Rob and Jessica Booker and Kent and Kyler were coming here. And well, let me back up a second. When we were at our church, I was praying for a sister in Christ. Lord, bring me someone I can talk to and be there for it. And Jessica and Rob were there. I was the one who told her she was going to have a baby. And I said, and I wanted a pie when she told me the news, and she said, no. But we got her Kinsey. And when they started coming here, I really missed it. And then when, you know, we come over for things and the nativity. First year we come over to the nativity, I brought my dog along, and I'm up here walking in and out, and I get tapped on the shoulder. And it was your dad, Pastor Dennis, going, can you know, kind of stay back, that we're having this be a quiet, reverent time. And they said, sure, you know. And well, we've been coming here for quite a while now. And the next year, and I don't remember because the pandemic was in there. And I came back, but this time I didn't have my dog, even though she goes most anywhere with me. I was up there walking around, no dog, and over by the animals, and I got tapped on the shoulder again. And I turned, and it was Dennis, and he goes, he wanted to tell me that, you know, they had a quiet time. And I thought, wow. You know, at first I was thinking, did I do something wrong? You know, but I understood it. I knew how important that nativity was because of Dennis. And I hope to see a lot more of him. And since then, he prayed for Sherman for his surgery. He was ready to help him with anything. And we missed that. Like you said, it was a connection. And it wasn't just connection to us. It was connection with the Bookers. And then it was a connection with all of you. And you make this church new feelings, new hopes, new dreams. And I want to thank all of you for sharing Dennis with us. And then the best memory, I guess I can tell you, I tried for 10 years to become the card lady for our other church. And I got asked to do that. They asked, what are your things you like to do? And I said, cards. And I don't have, thanks to Nancy, I don't have 1,000 or 2,000 cards. I probably have 3,000 or 4,000 cards now. And if I'm late, please forgive me. And if you need to give me a new address, a phone number change or anything, I'll see that Teresa gets that information as well. But please give it to me. And the last thing I think I want to share is that when he asked me to send a special card to the Downings for what they do for the church, I was like, yes. It was my little piece of heaven. You can't imagine how happy I was when I got asked to do that. And then I guess the one thing I want to share was Dennis touched people's hearts, but he didn't stop there. He touched their souls. And he didn't just do it because we are the people we are, which are great. But he touched us because of God. And when somebody loves God that much, you know, it's hard to be sad when he's gone, because every one of you have a piece of him. And I thank you for sharing him with us.
Show the next video, Dana, please.
And sleep tonight in the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. Oh no! He's recording that. Keep picking on Dan. See what's gonna happen?
I gotta go laugh.
I look back, and Gene's back here just laughing to beat the band. Oh man!
Well, that's why he quit singing. That was
Yeah. I look over here and like, oh gosh, no, you didn't. You didn't. I will whip on you if that shows up on the screen in church.
Oh, thank you. Chuck and Cindy Harper, and it is Chuck, not Church Harper. So if you'd like to come and share now.
Well, good morning, everybody. I have some really fun memories of being here years ago when we brought some Native students with us. Chuck and I met Dennis and Donna, and the kids. They were little then. Dustin and Dana were just little kids, but we met in the early 90s out on the Navajo reservation. And at that time, we were gathering anyone that was interested in helping with teenagers, because we saw such an incredible need with students, and we didn't see a lot of ministry toward Native students. And so we gathered all but 5 or 6 people that were doing youth ministry on the reservation and started praying together. And Dennis was one of those good friends that prayed alongside us, and we prayed and we cried and we talked to the Lord, and then we started to do little youth quakes, and then we started to do Trail of Hope conferences where we get Native students from all over the country. We even had some Aboriginal students from Australia and Canada and Mexico, but we really started to see God move in developing Native youth ministry. And Dennis was so much a part of that, encouraging and praying and working. And a few of the kids that Dennis and Donna had at their church were 2 of the students that I think we did our first high school assembly with them playing guitar and singing. that was like kind of their first thing. And those young people today, even this week, they are probably on tour with about 12 or 15 Native young adults and teenagers, and they're going to different reservations around the country, sharing their testimonies. And when a young Native person on a basketball court hears somebody like Jason or Roxanne Manning give their testimonies, they can't help but receive that rescue message, how Jesus changed their life and how they were blessed by that. So we've seen youth ministry on the reservation go from almost nothing to 70 or 80 youth leaders come to a retreat and be blessed. So Dennis was very much a part of that vision to see youth ministry develop, and so we're really grateful for that. And I think what I love to see you here like this and sharing your memories and your joys and your sorrow. But I think I would want to say to you that Dennis would want you to keep going. He left a great legacy with you all, and he would want you to keep going and making disciples. He would want you to take the good news that you have, and he would want you to share that with people in your community, with police officers or EMTs or teenagers. Dennis was a big part of sharing his faith on the reservation, and I know he did that here, and we looked at the beautiful book the police department gave Donna and the family, and what a blessing to see how he, we had to say goodbye to him once before, in the 90s when they came out here. We were so sad to see them leave the reservation because we, like them, we didn't have a lot of friends that were just like us from the outside, kind of, but it was hard to say goodbye, but we just trusted the Lord that there was a purpose why Dennis and Donna had to leave, and I guess you guys are the reason why God brought them here, and it's just really neat to see the way that they have influenced so many people, and just really poured their lives into this church, and that's really a blessing to see. So keep up the good work, and keep working on that legacy that's been passed to you.
We've been telling stories about Rich all the way up here as we traveled this week, and I know that we could write books about the stories of Dennis, and hopefully someday maybe some of us will, or some of you will. I saw in there he liked Mexican food in the early part of the slideshow, and that was so true. When Cindy and a group of friends traveled with Dennis to Albuquerque often for counseling training, and we were always trying to find the best Mexican food and the hottest Mexican food, and we had run across a place in Albuquerque that we knew of. It's called Hurricanes. That might give you a little clue right there. But we told Dennis, they make a burrito there that you cannot eat the whole thing. Oh, yeah, I can eat the whole thing. We started betting money that Dennis would not be able to eat the whole Hurricanes burrito. And I can still see the day we went there. And he leaned over and he goes, I'm not going to be able to eat this whole thing. If you win. So anyway, we've had so many fun times over so many different stories. We could tell story after story about Dennis and about he was buried alive. Got one verse to share with you here, maybe two. Why are you downcast, O my soul? Why are you so in turmoil within me? I don't know about you, but I do know about you. We've all asked that why question. That why question, why would you take him so soon? Why would you take him before you're going to see your first grandchild? Why would you do this, Lord? You know what? We don't know. God has his perfect plan. He has a perfect way. All we can do is what the verse says. Hope in God, for I shall again praise it. Dennis, left a big hole in our heart. Sorry, I'm the biggest waterworks person I'll ever see when I get sad. But you know, that's okay. God wants us to cry. He wants us to ask questions. There's nothing wrong with a why question. We will never do that until we get to heaven. And that's okay. And the only thing is, we need to keep putting our hope in God. For again, we will praise Him. So many great stories of Dennis. One of my favorite stories has to do with my brother Joel. Now, my brother Joel's a lot younger. I've been crazy in my life, but I think nobody's been crazier than my brother Joel. And, we live on a mission compound where everybody is nice, holy kids, right? Well, pastor's kids, I don't think Dustin's ever been this way, but me being one, and my brother being one, my brother did some crazy things, and one day when he was about 12 years old, maybe 14, he and his friend went and took a 22, went in the radio station, and held one of the other volunteer DJs hostage one night. All as a prank. Craziest thing. Why would you ever do that? Well, missionary kids, you don't always have the best judgment. But my brother got arrested and went threw him in jail for a day and all this stuff. Guess who was there to give counsel and hope? Yes, Dennis was there. And he bailed him out, took him, he says, I can give him the volunteer service that he's going to require to have. And he worked in this fire station with Dennis for several months. Today, my brother Joel says, that transformed my life. Working with Dennis made me who I am today. That's the kind of person Dennis was. I could also tell you about, the time we went skiing with Rich Mullins. Rich Mullins came out to ski with us, and Dennis was kind of all excited, we're going to ski with this famous musician. Maybe he'll sing Awesome God or one of these songs. And anyway, we're riding up on the ski lift, and Dennis says to Rich Mullins, he says, being in ministry, doing praise and worship music every day and on tour all the time, he said, how do you keep focused on doing this as ministry? And Dennis looked at him and he says, I don't do this for ministry, I do this for the money. And he jumped off the ski lift down the mountain. Dennis was there scratching his head. Chuck, did you hear what he just said? And it bugged Dennis all day long. He kept asking me, what did he mean by that? I said, well, just ask him. And later that night, Dennis finally got the courage up to ask Rich Mullins, what did you mean by you just do this for the money? And Rich said, well, he said, if I had a mongoloid child, I would just love that child for everything it's worth. I wouldn't consider it was ministry at all. I would just do that because I love that child. He says, that's the way it is with music. He says, the music industry has robbed the world of what music was intended to be. Music is to be in the church, and it's something that we can do to worship God with. He says, it just so happens I get paid to do that, so I don't do it as ministry. I do it because I love to, and that's what God has called me to do. And Dennis became one of Rich's good friends from then on, and that was kind of fun. But anyway, so many great stories. I could still tell you a couple more stories, but I guess I'll tell you one more. This really tells who Dennis was. When we were starting our youth organization called Christ for Native Youth, we said, why don't we try Bible quizzing? I think Dennis said, why don't we try Bible quizzing? I said, I don't think that's ever going to work with Native kids. They're too shy. They would never jump up and answer a Bible question in front of a whole group of people in a big room. But he says, let's try this. So anyhow, all these kids got into Bible quizzing, and lo and behold, it really took off, and it was working well. And Dennis was saying, some of the kids in my youth group are really coming from traditional backgrounds. He says, we got to pray for them. And there was, I think it was one young girl who, her family told her, you can't go to all those Christian events in your church. You know, you're going to youth group one night, you're going to church on Sundays, you're going to Bible quizzing on Friday night. You have to pick one thing that you can go to. Do you remember that story, Mama? And this girl says, well, I guess I'm learning the most about God in Bible quizzing. I'll go to that one. So, long story made short, she became part of the Bible quiz team, and they were going over to Hopi one night to a Bible quiz rally, which meant she got to go to the Bible quiz rally and Friday night. And then she came home and her parents said, you're getting too much of that white man's religion. We want you to go to this medicine man, and we're going to have this ceremony so you can be cleansed of all of this Christian stuff. And this girl, they were studying the book of John, and they were in John chapter 3, where Nicodemus was coming to Jesus late at night. Well, the medicine man's group called her into this ceremony, and all night long they were playing their drums and going through the ceremony. And this girl said, all I could think of was John 4 and Nicodemus. And she says, finally I had to see whatever I'm supposed to see in the ceremony. But it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. She got home and said, I've got to go talk to Dennis because I don't want people to leave. And Dennis welcomed her. They welcomed her to their house, and Dennis led her to the Lord that night. And just a great story of how Dennis was welcomed and would sacrifice so much. So I've got one more story, one more verse I want to share with you. 2 Corinthians 4:18. So we fix our eyes on Jesus, not on what is seen, but what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. And it's touched us all. We have to focus not so much anymore on Dennis, because life goes on. We can't focus just on his life. We need to celebrate it, yes. But you know what? There's more to come. We will be together with Dennis again sometime in heaven. Second lesson from this verse. Satan is going to hit you when you're down. Amen. He knows your weakest link. That's where he will go. Please don't let him take this church down. Focus on Jesus. Amen. Fix your eyes on him, not on what is unseen. Because I know there's spiritual warfare going on around this church like never before. There's spiritual warfare in our nation like never before. He would love to take down this church. Let's fix our eyes on him, knowing that Satan is here. He's going to do everything he can to take the church apart. So let us focus on what is unseen, or what is seen, but whatever this verse says. 2 Corinthians 4:18. So we fix our eyes on Jesus, not what is seen, but what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Let's continue to celebrate the life of Dennis, and let's go forward from here. What an honor it is to be with you. We love you guys. We've had Laurel Street Church on our heart for many, many years, because we feel like this is the extension of what Dennis started out there and what God is doing. Thank you for letting us join you here this morning. What a privilege it is. I can't.
Oh my, what testimonies. And Chuck did hit it square in the head that we are under attack. There's several of us in the church that have already felt it, and you may feel it too, but we will overcome Satan with God's help. That is the only way we will overcome it. Barry's going to come and share now, that he finally got here.
Good morning. Sorry I'm late. Show my human side when I can't remember to pick up my pieces of paper that I didn't have stored in my empty gourd. Anyway, yes, I too was privileged to know Dennis for probably 35 years, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. And as Chuck and Cindy were sharing, Dennis always had a soft spot in his heart for young people. And even as Dennis's blonde wig turned to silver, was there anyone that ever acted more like a child than that big man? That was unanimous. And another thing about Dennis that seemed to be unique, it didn't seem to make any difference what he did. He seemed to have an inherent creative way to hurt himself. Whether it was falling on the ice with the police, or falling down the stairs at home. And I remember when he had a car wash, and he asked me to help out a little bit with that car wash. I think it really fell to Donna and the kids to keep that going after he had knee surgery. Well, you know, in the winter time, sometimes equipment just doesn't work like it's supposed to. And there was a garage door that was stuck or something at the car wash, and there was no one around to help him. So Dennis fashioned this ladder out of blocks of 2x4s covered with ice, and he attempted to raise his height and his reach, and he got on top of that and he fell, and I think he broke his leg after the knee surgery. Dennis, stop! But got knee surgeries and shoulder surgery. Ooh, that's hard for me to say. He couldn't even hunt because the shoulder got fixed in a way that didn't allow him to hold that compound bow anymore. I miss Sunday mornings when I could go in his office and he was making his last preparations of his message. We could talk about what we did the week before, what we were going to do. Have you seen any deer out there at the timber? What kind of trees did you plant this week? Whatever it was. I really miss that. And a number of years ago, I hurt my back at work. And any of you that have ever gone through a workman's comp claim know that sometimes that doesn't move along as fast maybe as you would like it to. And it was coming up on like more than 6 months, and I tried to go back to work and couldn't. And I couldn't cover the pain anymore with Vicodin. Anybody knows about Vicodin? Well, that's pretty strong stuff, and I was taking a handful of them a day. So they put me on a fentanyl patch. Anybody knows what fentanyl is? That's in the news right now. That's nasty stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, I didn't feel anything after they put that patch on my back. I tore down buildings and stuff I wasn't supposed to do. I couldn't work, and I couldn't drive.
A silo.
But we're not talking about the silo I tore down. But after a while, please, don't let your kids, don't let your friends get on this stuff. After a while, it takes over your body. And it did mine. The things that I saw that weren't real, the feelings that I had, the way it changed my body temperature, and after a while, even after my surgery, I was still on the stuff. All I could think about every day was killing myself. And it wasn't me. I didn't want to do that. It was the fentanyl. And it got to the point where I couldn't be left alone because of the things that I was thinking about. My wife had to go to work. So it was Dennis that called me every hour or two. How are you doing? You doing okay? You're going to be okay. You're going to get off of this. You're going to make it until I call you again. Just keep thinking that. He did that for me. And then when I was finally off the stuff, it was about 10 days of being on no medication, I don't ever want to do that again in my life. And there was Dennis with me. And when it was finally over, when I came in his office before church, he said, "I can see it. You're free again, aren't you?" I said, "Yep, and you're there with me." So I can never forget what he did for me in that way. Since Dennis has passed, a lot of us have talked about, he was really preparing us for going on without him. He didn't know that he was going to be leaving, but the Holy Spirit probably did. He trained us that in the mission initiative training that we had, the core group that he put together in many ways. And I found a passage in the Bible that kind of goes along with this, that Jesus was trying to prepare his disciples for the fact that he was going to be leaving them behind, but that they could go on. And I found it in John 12, verse 20, and it goes like this. Some Greeks who had come to Jerusalem for the Passover celebration paid a visit to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee. They said, "Sir, we want to meet Jesus." Philip told Andrew about it, and they went together to ask Jesus. Jesus replied, "Now the time has come for the Son of Man to enter into his glory. I tell you the truth, unless a kernel of wheat is planted in the soil and dies, it remains alone. But its death will produce many new kernels, a plentiful harvest of new lives. Those who love their life in this world will lose it. Those who care nothing for their life in this world will keep it for eternity. Anyone who wants to serve me must follow me, because my servants must be where I am. And the Father will honor anyone who serves me. Now my soul is deeply troubled. Should I pray, 'Father, save me from this hour'? But this is the very reason I came. Father, bring glory to your name." Then a voice spoke from heaven, saying, "I have already brought glory to my name, and I will do so again." When the crowd heard the voice, some thought it was thunder, while others declared an angel had spoken to him. Then Jesus told them, "The voice was for your benefit, not mine." And indeed, for 26 years, Dennis was for the benefit of this community and all you here today.
Dan, did you want to share?
You have to video first.
Okay, have your video then.
I know your life on earth was trouble. Only you can know the pain. You weren't afraid to face the devil. You were no stranger to the rain. So go rest high on that mountain, 'cause son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven shouting love for the Father and the Son. Oh, how we cried the day you left us. gathered round your grave to grieve. Wish I could see the angels' faces when they hear your sweet voice sing. Go rest high on that mountain, 'cause son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven shouting love for the Father and the Son. Go rest high on that mountain, 'cause son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven shouting love for the Father and the Son. Go to heaven shouting love for the Father and the Son.
And of course now it's not connecting. So I may have to have someone click on the computer when you need to. There we go. It's still working. This was sent to me a long time ago. Dennis and I had this thing where we went back and forth quite a bit. I think a lot of you maybe have had that. I'm still about 5 million behind him, and Craigslist war against each other, picking on each other. Sorry about your name, Chuck. Back earlier this year, my roof of my shed caved in, and I had planned on back in June getting a new shed put up, and Dennis had put it on his calendar to help me. Well, unfortunately, he wasn't able to. Well, that's what we did yesterday. So I was out in the sun for 10 hours in this heat and humidity with friends putting up a shed. And so a lot of my stuff didn't get done until late that night. So I was making up the bulletins. Honestly, well, let's see what's there. This is the one. How many of you have realized that this motion background has been up there every week, starting the very first Sunday after Dennis's passing? He had told me that was his favorite background. He liked it. And this is the way I have been able to remember Pastor in my own way since I set the projections up each week. So every week since that has happened, that has been up there. And I don't know how soon I'm going to stop it. But I can be honest with you, a little over 26 years ago, I was not thrilled on how they were going to vote the new pastor in. It was nothing against Dennis. I had never met him. I didn't even know who he was. I knew he was on the mission field. But I didn't know him. I'd never met him. Because the pastor before, we just brought him in. We voted on him. He came in. Things didn't go real well. And I had asked elders in the church who were in charge of the new pastor search committee, hey, why don't we bring in 2 or 3, we can see them, we can vote from that way. And then when I talked to, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, I think we should do it that way. Well, then I got decided to do it the way we did it before, bring one in, vote. And I did, I liked him. It was the only time I'd ever heard him speak, first time I met him. And I'm glad it turned out the way it did. Because my life has been a journey here at this church. A fun journey since he was here. The weekend that they were moving here, unfortunately a friend of mine and I had a job that took us out of the state. We traveled to Florida and we're doing that. So he didn't get to be here for his first few messages. And then, that's February, March. In April, I came back. Only because I got a call. We work for a major company. We set up their window displays in stores. And I got paged by the store for that. I had a phone call. And I'm like, nobody knows I'm here but work. Why? Who would be calling me here? I'm in Florida. Or Texas. Actually, it's Texas. Well, it was work telling me that my mother just about died. I flew up to Minnesota because my dad and mom went up there for the Mall of America. When I came back, Dennis was there for me. My mom made it. She came home. And then a few months later, she passed. Dennis was there the whole time. And one thing I can remember, when we were saying our final goodbyes at the cemetery, I said goodbye. Sorry. Dennis looked at me and said, Dan, it's not goodbye. It's see you later. And it has stuck with me ever since. Then the prank wars began. And it depends. Some of you will get that. But he was way, way, way ahead of me. And there was no way. Every time I tried to get ahead of him, yeah, he'd get a few more in before I would. And it wasn't just pranks, it was jokes and misconstruing what I said and using it against me. He would sit there with people and he would make you think he messed with your food. He did to me once, but I caught him and he actually did mess with my food. He actually stuck his fingers in my food. It was upstairs during the potluck, and I had got to do something, go get my drink, I think it was, and I turned around and I caught him sticking his fingers in my food. I don't know how many of you ever had the opportunity to be on the male side, sorry ladies, but I have to share a room with him. Let me tell you, I always thought, I hope Dennis isn't asleep when Gabriel comes back and blows his horn, because if Dennis was blowing his, you wouldn't hear Gabriel. He could snore. And now some of the stuff that happened at conference, what happened at conference stayed at conference. The first conference I went to was just Dennis and I. We had a blast. We did the Missional Church Initiative. There were 6 of us. And Barb and Barry had their own room, and Gene and T had their own room. Well, I didn't pay for the rooms. It was through the Midwest region. So Dennis and I had to share a room. And, we always had to make sure there was 2 beds, and he was in one, and I was in the other. And that's the way we liked it. But I remember the first time we went, he had a CPAP machine, but he didn't bring it. The next morning, I says, why didn't you bring your CPAP? Oh, I don't usually take it when I go just overnight for one night. It's a hassle. He says, you might want to bring that next time. I'd like to get some sleep. He did bring it. The thing about Dennis's testimony was he didn't have to tell you he was a Christian. You knew it by the life he lived. He would tell you, be the first to tell you he was not perfect. But when he told you he loved you, it just wasn't words. Because love is a verb, an action. And Dennis was always showing everybody that. As others have said, during the hard times, he was there. He would leave his family and be there for you. So in Rockford one day, my dad had to have a stent put in. He shipped him to Swedish American. Me and my aunt are sitting in the waiting room. Next thing we know, the chaplain comes out. And he said, Jeffries. And my aunt and I are sitting there like, whew, they're looking for Jeffries. And then all of a sudden he says, no, my name is Pastor Jeffries. I'm a chaplain at the church. I'm looking for Reed. Right after we had heard Code Blue in the cath lab. My aunt immediately called her sister. My first call was Pastor. And all I wanted from him was just to get it out on the prayer chain, to pray that my dad was going to make it or not. Within the hour, he was there. Left his family for me. Whatever he was doing. Last year for me was a very hard year. Because on June 24th, I took my dad to the hospital for congestive heart failure. And I went on a journey I never thought I would go on. I was hoping and praying that Dad would come home, but he went to a nursing home for rehab. Dennis was there. When the pandemic started, Dennis and I worked on getting the youth Facebook Live going. Then we started to record stuff. I was able to do a lot more here. I couldn't go see Dad. The only time I could go see my dad is if I stood outside his window and talked to him on via phone, or when he ended up back in the hospital because something went wrong and I had to see him back. And right at this time, this exact time last year, they were allowing people in ICU to visit people in ICU, no visitors. I was allowed in because my dad had taken a turn for the worse, and they didn't know he was going to make it. And he was jittery and shaky. He could kind of see me. So I wanted to go to Madison to his doctors up there to see what's going on. Well, they sent him and got him to that new Javon Bay because Madison didn't have any beds. So I was able to go over every day. I was on vacation. This was my birthday, and I always take that off. But Dennis kept calling me and checking to see how things were. He met with me and my brother. I had to come up here and do something at the church. My brother wanted to meet with him. Dennis had other plans. He came over for a short time because when they got Dad over there, Dad did not want to be on a ventilator. But they put him on one because it wasn't that he was dying. We thought he was. It was to help him breathe because Freeport didn't realize he was having seizures. And help him breathe, that's what they did. And when I go over there, the first day he was out of it. I think it was the second or third day when I went to visit him. He looked up and he could see me and he knew it. And he wanted that out. And when I talked with Dennis, my biggest thing was, I was medical power of attorney. How do you pull the plug on a parent? It's hard. But we made the decision that if it had to happen, it would happen on the 29th. Because I didn't want to lose my dad on the 28th. I just felt if I could have dealt with it. I was going through this rough time. The core group of friends that I have here, mostly at the church, and Dennis, they took their time out and threw me a birthday party. Because my dad couldn't be here and I couldn't be with him. I could spend about an hour a day with him. They don't know how much it meant to me. Talk about being emotional. But I knew, beyond a shadow of a doubt,
that Dennis loved me, he loved everybody here, and he was going to be there for me. When it come to Thanksgiving and Christmas, after my dad had passed, Donna and Dennis both invited me for Christmas and Thanksgiving, but unfortunately with my job, I work holidays, and I ended up having to work both of those holidays last year. The last thing Dennis was threatening was to put some really hot spices in my food when I wasn't looking. And kind of made it look like he was going to do it on our Tuesday breakfast. And so when I brought my food, I made sure I didn't take my eyes off of it. And I was praying that sometimes what they would do is when they brought food, someone would have to wait a little bit, so we would pray quick so everybody else could start eating. And then I would pray that my food would be the last to come out, so when we prayed, I didn't have to try and not wash my food. But that last Tuesday that we had breakfast together was the day before his birthday. He had asked me, he said, "What are you doing Saturday?" No, I said, "Right now, nothing." "Why?" "I need your help." "What?" "Well, Nancy's got a garage sale, and I'm going to go down and help. I don't want you to come and help me." "Okay." Well, unfortunately, when I went back to work Thursday, somebody had taken vacation, and now I had to work. And then Friday, I went to lunch. I came back from lunch, and that's when I learned of what had happened. Over the years, one thing Dennis was working at here at the church was to get the church's mortgage paid off. That was something he wanted to celebrate with us. And he would do crazy stuff. One lady offered to donate, I think it was $1,000, if he would dye his hair green around St. Patrick's Day. He dyed his hair green. There are pictures of it, I don't have them, but there are pictures somewhere that he dyed his hair green. He loved to do other crazy stuff. This winter he wanted to do snow kayaking. You may have seen some of the pictures or the video on Facebook. The snow kayaking didn't work quite like we had hoped. How we hooked up the rope to the kayak, it snapped off part of the kayak. We couldn't pull the kayak. But he was in shorts, sandals, and a t-shirt. And it was cold. Kyler from across the street was driving a truck to pull the kayak, and I was doing the video and the pictures. Yeah, he tried to get me to take my coat off, my hat, my gloves, and do this. And I'm like, "You're crazy. I ain't doing this. It's too cold." I was froze. But we've had this thing here for a while now. And Dennis wanted us to try and pay off our mortgage. As of June 27th, the balance of our mortgage was $1,375. On July 4th, well before that, we had the money. We paid $1,375. Our balance on the mortgage is zilch.
Oh, you want to?
Yeah, no, we're celebrating. Something Dennis wanted, something the church was able to do.
Just through the funnel.
So, that's our special announcement. We have these. I had talked to Dennis about this a long time ago. He wanted to burn the deed. the mortgage papers we got. We're not gonna get them from the Churches of God. So I made these up last night. It says mortgage, paid in full. We'll hand these out at the end. And then in the back corner, there's a fire ring. We're gonna get the fire started. And we're all gonna be able to throw these in and burn our mortgage. This last year, God has provided for this church in many different ways, not just financially. And Dennis is there for the most part of it. We all love him. We all miss him. But the one thing he wants us to do is go on and to share Christ through our lives. Not just by telling, but by living it. Because being a Christian is a verb, it's an action. It's not just words. You have any more? Okay. So we'll have Barry come up and he can finish what he's got. We'll hand these out at the back at the end. So, thank you.
Barry has one more thing to share. And then we'll have our closing hymn. We will retire to the fire pit and have a little ceremony out there, and Barry will close with prayer. And then we get to eat.
I have a letter. I have a letter here from Donna to the church. Well, before I read that, I'll do my best to read through it. My glasses are scratched up pretty good, but I think I'll have more trouble reading through the water in my eyes. You know what I'm saying? But I do have one more story about Dennis. When Dan was talking about his father in the hospital, his mom in the hospital, I can't tell you how many times I was in the hospital, in the waiting room for Barb or someone else in the church. And Dennis was in the waiting room with a device that could raise and lower the volume on the waiting room TV. It could change the channel. And whatever it was, you would see someone go up to maybe change the channel or something. And as they were coming back, Dennis would change the channel. And the guy would sit down and he would look back like, how did that happen? So he would go back up and he would just about touch it and the channel would change backwards. And then he would go back to sit down and the volume would either go off or go way up. And it wasn't very polite to another family, but we thought it was real funny. And just, you know, in the waiting room of a hospital, it's not a nice place. But it broke the ice, and it took us off our worries for a little while. And we knew that just wait a few minutes until this next spring. So that's one thing that we will miss, for sure. This is Donna's letter to Laurel Street. Thank you to all of you for your love, prayers, and support of our family during this most difficult time in my life. I still find it hard to believe that he is really gone from this earth. I miss his laughter, his love for life. I miss his love for our family. Dennis loved everything to do with the outdoors, except for sandy beaches. He said sand gets in every crevice of his body. He loved hiking in the mountains. He loved camping. He loved hunting. He loved fishing. He loved target shooting with his guns. He loved going on motorcycle rides. He loved traveling. He loved people, but most of all, he loved me, Dustin, Dana, and John. Dennis loved his church family. All of you were very special to him. As I reflect on the past 26 years that our family has been a part of Laurel Street Community Church, there have been some very good times and some very bad times. Through it all, God has been in control. A few things really stand out in my mind that Dennis loved. The hog roast, because he loved to eat and be outside at the fire pit while Keith was cooking the hog. And the live nativity. Christmas was his favorite time of the year. He always looked forward to seeing the street lined up with cars viewing the nativity. Dennis just wanted everyone to know the true meaning of Christmas. Dennis would always make time when someone needed him. Sometimes we would be on vacation and someone from the church passed away. We would come back home so that he could minister to the family. Other times he would often sit for hours talking with someone on the phone while he was on vacation who would be in distress or needed comforting. That's how much he was committed to Laurel Street. Dennis would never miss an opportunity to tell someone about Christ. He wanted everyone to know about God and for everyone to know about salvation so that they can spend eternity with God. He had a jail ministry for several years, both here and in New Mexico. He also wanted to know them to know that there can be hope for everyone who comes to Christ. Dennis had such a zest and passion for the Freeport Police Department. He loved spending time with the officers, whether in the squad or out fishing or hunting. He would listen to their frustrations, their concerns. He would celebrate with them, performing weddings, congratulating a new child being born, celebrating promotions or retirements in the department. He really cared and loved every one of the officers and wanted them to know how special they were to him. He was very humbled and honored to be their chaplain. One thing I know for sure, Dennis would not wish for Laurel Street Community Church to fail just because he isn't here. He would love to see the church carry on and do even more and exciting things for God and for this community. He would want you to celebrate his life. I like to think that he's climbing mountains, seeing waterfalls, still preaching and reuniting with family. He no longer has shoulder pain, nor is he concerned about his weight. I can just imagine his expression when he met God face to face. Even though I am at a loss without him, and my heart is breaking, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is happy and now complete. If there is anyone here today that is not sure if you're going to heaven, I know that Dennis would want you to make that decision today before it's too late. Dennis's goal was to have the church mortgage paid in full this year, and we did. By the grace of God, this has been accomplished. I'm just sad that he can't celebrate this victory here with us. As a family, we feel that our time at Laurel Street has come to a close. It is time for Laurel Street to create new relationships and love for the next minister that God leads to come here. Our love for all of you will never end. My door is always open to our Laurel Street family. May God richly bless our Laurel Street family.
Go ahead and stand with us, please.
Welcome you joining us to burn that mortgage.